Level 1. The vulnerable beginner. It starts with a phone call you almost don't answer. Unknown number, 11:47 p.m. You pick up anyway, because you're 3 months behind on rent and the voice on the other end knows your name. "I hear you need work," he says. Nothing else, no introduction, and you say yes before you've thought it through. 2 days later you're standing in a parking lot behind a shuttered auto shop, holding a duffel bag you were told not to open. You don't open it. You hand it to a man who doesn't say thank you, and he hands you an envelope instead, $400 folded twice. You tell yourself this is temporary, and you tell yourself a lot of things that first week, but the truth is simpler. You're broke, you're scared, and someone finally needed you for something. You don't know yet that every person you trust from this point forward becomes a door. A door someone else can open if they push hard enough. Level 2. Proving usefulness. By the second month you have a route, 3 drop points, always in that order, always before 9 a.m. You've learned to read faces, to know who's watching too closely and who isn't watching at all. Your usefulness becomes your identity. Nobody asks about your old job anymore, nobody asks about anything, and that silence starts to feel like belonging. You start keeping 2 phones, one for your mother and one for everyone else, telling yourself the separation protects her, though it protects you too, even if you don't say that part out loud. The first time someone asks you to vouch for a new guy, you feel something close to pride, small, specific, earned. You don't clock the cost yet. At this level, the cost is quiet. It just sits there, accumulating. Level 3. Trusted participant. Trust here is currency the same way cash is, maybe more so, because cash gets spent while trust gets remembered. You're handling real weight now, not the bag but the responsibility, and people above you start using your name in rooms you're not in. That's how you know you've moved up. You hear about conversations secondhand. You meet Danny this level. He's been in for 6 years and still calls his sister every Sunday, still sends birthday cards. You ask him once if that's smart and he just shrugs. "Everybody needs one door that stays open," he says. "Just don't let anybody else know which one it is." You don't understand the warning yet. You will. The rules are sharpening now, spoken and unspoken. Never discuss numbers on the phone. Never bring anyone around who hasn't been vetted twice. Never assume a friendly face is just a friendly face. You start rehearsing your own cover stories in the mirror, not because anyone's caught you in a lie yet, but because you've started expecting that they will. Level 4. The skilled operator. You move $60,000 through 3 accounts before lunch and don't think twice about it. That number would have terrified you a year ago. Now it's Tuesday. You've built a small crew under you, 2 runners, a driver, a guy who handles paperwork you don't ask about, and they look at you the way you used to look at the man who first called you at 11:47 p.m. It's strange, being on the other side of that look. This is also where the erosion becomes visible if you're honest with yourself. You lie to your mother about where the money for her surgery came from, tell her it's a bonus, and she believes you because she wants to. Somewhere in a federal building 3 states away, a name gets flagged for the first time. Not yours, not yet, but close enough in the network that it will matter eventually. You don't know this. You're too busy managing the version of yourself that everyone around you can see. Level 5. The respected insider. Respect here isn't loud. It's a seat that's automatically left open for you, people lowering their voices slightly when you walk past, not out of fear exactly but out of habit. You've stopped doing the small jobs, now you delegate, you strategize, you think in terms of exposure and redundancy, which routes can be traced back to which people, which conversations should never happen twice in the same location. You also start noticing who's slipping. Danny's sister mentions his name to a coworker, just once, just in passing, at a barbecue neither of you attended, and it takes 3 weeks for that single sentence to travel far enough to matter. You hear about it before Danny does. You don't warn him. That's the part that surprises you. How easily the decision comes, how little debate you have with yourself, how protecting the structure has quietly become more important than protecting the person. That's the level 5 lesson, though nobody says it directly. Everyone you love is a thread, and threads get pulled by people patient enough to wait. Level 6. The authority figure. Now you're the one people vouch to. New faces get run past you before anyone brings them in, which means you've become the check in the system, and that makes you a target in a different way, not for violence necessarily, but for information. People want to know who you talk to when you think no one's listening. You limit your circle to almost nothing, one brother, one old friend from before all this, and you tell yourself this is discipline. It's also grief if you look at it directly, which you try not to do. The federal case that started as a flag name 2 levels ago now has a face attached to it, a pattern, A handful of associates working backward through exactly the kind of relationships you've spent years building. They don't need to find you. They need to find someone who still answers when you call. You don't know this yet. You suspect it, the way you suspect whether turning before you can name why. Level 7. The strategic power broker. You stop appearing in rooms altogether. Decisions move through 3 intermediaries before they reach you, and by the time they do, your name has been sanitized out of every version but the first. This is power at its most abstract. You shape outcomes for people you'll never meet, over consequences you'll never witness directly, and the isolation isn't punishment, it's architecture, built this way on purpose. Your brother calls one night, worried, saying a man came by asking questions that sounded routine but weren't. You tell him to stop answering his phone for anyone he doesn't recognize. You don't tell him why. You've become someone who protects people by keeping them in the dark, which used to feel like a betrayal and now just feels like Tuesday. Somewhere, a warrant gets signed. Somewhere, a marshal reads a case file that's mostly blank except for a web of names, your brother's name near the center of it, closer to you than anyone else still standing. Level 8. The untouchable architect. There's a stillness at the top that nobody warns you about. You have resources, distance, layers of people between you and any single point of failure. You are, by every practical measure, safe. You are also alone in a way that has no bottom. You think about Danny sometimes, and about the version of yourself that answered a phone call at 11:47 p.m. because he was scared and broke and grateful someone needed him. That person feels like a stranger now, someone you protected the structure from becoming, ironically, by becoming something harder. The truth about being found, when it finally happens to people like you, rarely involves a mistake you made. It involves someone you loved, someone who never signed up for any of this, answering a door they didn't know was a door at all. Loyalty, it turns out, isn't a wall. It's a hallway, and somebody patient enough will always find the person standing at the far end of it, waiting for you to call. You built an empire on the idea that you could control every variable. You couldn't control the one that mattered, that love doesn't encrypt itself, and neither does memory. Somewhere across the city, a new recruit is shaking someone's hand for the first time. He thinks he understands the rules. He doesn't. But he will.